Ophelia Lovibond, welcome to An Actor Despairs. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
It means so much having you here. I watched your piece, Minx, and it's I talk to actors all the time, and I feel like in today's age we're so saturated with streaming and television that it's just like there's so many different things. And I'm an actor in between being an actor and having this podcast. I have to watch so much, but this piece was like I can't remember the last time I really savored something while like having the experience and just like your performance. It was unstoppable. I mean, it's hard to, it was like one of the most incredible things to see something as dense as feminism be assimilated into comedy and delivered like with depth, but also like be hilarious and catharsis. It's one of the best pieces I've seen in a long time. And I've just been texting everyone about the show. And
Yay.
you were so good in this role. I mean, it was really just like a coup. There's no other actress in the world that could have played it. And we're just literally meeting now, but I'm just so fucking proud of you, man.
I'll take pride wherever it comes. That's fine by me. Thank you.
But I'm really excited to talk to you about the piece. But before we get there, can we start at the beginning? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Hammersmith, which is in West London, on housing estate. That sounds posh. I don't mean like Downton. I mean like a kind of like social housing.
Like Top Boy.
I haven't actually watched it.
Oh, it's about the housing estates in London. So,
but probably, yeah. So I grew up there, and then we moved to Shepherd's Bush, still in West London, and again on more of another kind of housing estate, social housing, with my mum and my brother and my sister. And we've always been, it's West London until we all started having to try and find our own place to live.
That's incredible. And what was your mom an artist? Like, what did she do?
No, I don't know where I get this from. The only person who was remotely interested in acting was my cousin Sally. But no, my mum was a psychologist. My dad was a journalist. My brother and sister are not remotely interested in it. The acting started because I went to a kind of theatre workshop, a very casual drama club.
As a kid?
As a kid. I started when I was 10 years old, and it was in kind of the local, there was a cinema nearby, and it was in a little space in the cinema, and it was for all of the kids from the housing estates to kind of give them something cheap and entertaining to do. I think it was 50 pence a term or something like that, just something nominal so it could be set up. It was just a Saturday afternoon drama club, and that's what we'd go along. And my brother actually went initially just for something to do, and then he sort of said, oh my god, you'd love it. And I was convinced that I wanted to be a dancer at that point, so I thought, no, I'm not going to go. And then went along and instantly fell in love with it, instantly knew, yep, this is what I want to do. Came home kind of so overexcited, telling my mum, I'm going to be an actor, I want to be an actor.
How old are you right here?
I was 10. I was 10 years old.
Amazing.
But I knew, I imagine
I had the
10-year-old.
Yeah.
But you think of like a 10-year-old saying to you, stop what they want to do. When I think of a 10-year-old now, I think, well, they're tiny. What do they know? They don't know what they want to do. And I realize
the same as them saying you want to be an astronaut, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
My mum just kind of thought, okay, great, fine. I'm not going to discourage her. But then sure enough, I then booked I did a play the following year at 11, and then got my first TV job at 12. And she thought, oh, right, she's actually doing this then.
Wow. So the play get you an agent?
I actually already had an agent. So the person who set up the drama club, his name was Andrew Braidford. It was called Youngblood Theatre Group, and he set up the theatre group, and then he set up an agency and said, anyone who's in the theatre group who wants to take this seriously, then you can be my client. So it was all very organic. It all happened I was very lucky that it just sort of fell into it in that way. So I had an agent by the time I was 12.
Wow, so you got started really young then.
Yep.
How did that feel? Because like there's so much to be said about being a youth and having confidence. Like when you booked the play and jumped into your first proper gig, was there an awareness of like wow, I'm really doing it? Or did it just seem like a natural progression of acting?
The first play that I did, it was a kind of big group ensemble play. We did Watership Down one year, and then the following year we did um, The Jungle Book, and it was at Regent's Park Open Air Theatre. So it was very, very English. It was very idyllic. Rehearsing these beautiful old rooms, and then we were performing, in the open air, and it was to a big, big audience. I can't remember. It must have been about 1,500. It was a big audience.
Wow.
But there were just so many of you, and it was all you're so young. You're having movement. We had this movement coordinator who would teach us how to move like animals, and it just was so idyllic. And then the first TV job I ever auditioned for, I booked when I was 12. And I remember thinking that this was so easy. I don't know why people talk about acting being so difficult. It's just been a breeze. I had obviously no idea how that was not going to be the case. But I was still at school. I didn't go to drama school or anything like that. I never kind of stopped my regular education. I would take time and do these shows, and you'd have a kind of chaperone and tutor on set. But it wasn't until it became, my full-time thing when I finished education that, the true test of it came along.
Was there a conversation with your mother? I mean, obviously, like, you go from 10 being like, I'm going to do it, to actually working, to then, like, a lot of people could find the temptation to withdraw from school and just focus on that. Was there, did your mom want you to make sure you got all the way through university, or was there ever a convo about that?
My mum never dictated one way or the other. It was always up to me. I mean, I was quite a precocious child anyway, but I didn't want to leave education. I wanted to get a proper education. I didn't want to go to drama school. For example, when I went to do this first job, and then every job after that, when I was still in secondary school, in high school, I would get loads of work from the teachers, and I would always come back ahead of the rest of the class because I would do all of it, and then I would ask for additional work to make sure that I never fell behind on my grades, so that could never be a problem for my mum or for the school to stop me from getting to do my acting. I think I just didn't want there to be any reason for anyone, whether it's my mum or family member or teacher or a director, to say, oh, maybe this isn't a good idea. I just wanted to take away any hurdle that could possibly get in the way. So I thought, right, well, if I do more than I would have been doing if I was in school while I was filming, then there can be no possible reason for them to say no to me for doing this.
Yeah.
And that attitude I had since I was 12, and it just continued. And then even, I think when I was 16, I got offered a job that was, for a girl of that age who, we grew up, we didn't have any money, single mum bringing up 3 kids. There was no money. I got offered a kind of quite lucrative job, but it would have meant leaving education. And I also got offered a drama scholarship to a really prestigious private school. And it wasn't even a difficult decision for me. I took the scholarship and just thought, well, I can secure other acting jobs. I wanted to get the scholarship and have that experience. And I was so glad that I did. And then the same thing happened. I finished that. I was working the whole time. I was always working.
Wow.
And then I finished that. And then there was the decision of whether or not to go to drama school. And I just thought, I don't want to go to drama school. I've already been working and doing this for years. I'd rather go to university and do English. And kind of knowing that I would act, forever, I just thought, how likely is it that I'm going to go back to university at like 40 or 50 and do an English degree? I'm just not going to. So it's something, and people kind of say, oh, was it something that you wanted to fall back on? It wasn't at all. It was already an end in itself. I mean, I was quite not a geek exactly, but I enjoyed it. I liked it. So I just thought, right, well, I want to have more of this before I then spend the rest of my life spent acting. I want to have a few years where I get to kind of have that university experience and read books and write essays and kind of figure out who I am without being on a film set.
Well, that's incredible, because this explains why you're such an amazing actress. You've been doing it for so long. And I'm so curious, on those sets, some people had learn by going to a school, drama, and then some people get the chance to learn by doing. And one of the things I often ask actors that do the show is, finding your voice and finding your confidence is something every actor goes through, and it comes at different times. And I'm curious, as you were doing these jobs and you were youth and into your teenage years, did you develop that confidence organically just through the process of constantly doing it? Were there people that helped you and mentored you along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think you learn, but I mean, you know how some people kind of can't watch themselves and they find it really
Yeah.
difficult to watch themselves. I found it quite, this sounds mean to myself, but I found it quite useful. I would watch it and kind of think, that didn't quite, you didn't quite pull that off, that didn't quite work. You didn't quite nail what you wanted to nail. And that was a kind of way of learning. And I experienced extraordinary kindness from people on set, people making sure that you felt comfortable. People were aware that I was so young, so there were any of the other actors, the rest of your cast would be very supportive. And I think, I don't think, there's a lot of things I did when I was younger. I don't think I'm particularly good in them. You just kind of think, oh God, what were you doing? But you learn through experience. And I think you start to, the good thing about it, obviously I have nothing to compare to because I haven't gone to drama school, but you kind of learn to feel when you've done it right.
Yeah.
You can kind of start to feel like, oh, I think I got that take, I think I nailed that one. And then but you can also go, oh no, that one didn't work. And it's hard to, like, sometimes actually Rachel Lee Goldenberg, who's one of our directors on Minx, I would very rarely ask for another take. We were always up against it, we had lots of stuff to get through, but then when I would ask for one, she would give me it because she knew I only ever asked for one when I knew there was something else they wanted to do. And she would kind of go, well, why? We're up against it. Why? And I would just say, look, it's going to take me too long to try and articulate it. Can I just do it? Yeah. And then I would do it. And she'd say, I'm so glad you said to ask for another one. That was the one. That's the one we'll print. And it's just, I think that's what I've learned predominantly from working since such a young age is kind of, you kind of evolve and you're trying to put all the different colors onto that sort of canvas, and then someone's trying to ask you, well, what is it you're trying to draw? It's just like, let me just draw it, let me just do it. And then in the final one you kind of give the full picture. And I think that was something I learned, was just like, just do it.
Yeah.
And don't overthink it. And as soon as I start overthinking anything, even if I'm doing an audition, that's when it goes wrong.
Yeah.
It's such bland advice, but it's so true. Just get on with it. Don't overthink it. Like, what you're doing.
Yeah.
Don't get in the way.
It's beautiful advice and it's sage. I do agree. And I'm curious, while you were building these credits, was there, a respective actress's career that you were trying to follow? Like, were you turning down certain jobs to kind of build to an ultimate, idealized level or goal?
I mean, no.
Work is work. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, you take what you can get. I think that's quite a kind of romantic view of acting, as that you're turning all things down left, right, and centre. I mean, obviously there are some jobs which simply you don't respond to and you have no affinity with, but generally speaking, I think when you're 13, 14, 15, you don't really have the luxury of, oh, I'm going to turn this down so I can be like Christina Ricci. You take the job, you want the credits, you want I wanted the experience. Like, I was aware that there would be times when I'd be on set and I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't, and I thought, well, the only way to learn is to just go out on a limb and try it. So the idea of turning down any work, especially in those first few years, just seemed completely counterproductive to me.
Yeah.
As I've got older, yeah, you do become more selective, but it's primarily, I feel, it's when I just don't respond to the material. It's not because I think, oh, well, Judi Dench wouldn't have done this, so I'm not going to either. It's always from the material.
That's incredible, and I appreciate the honesty there. That's amazing. And maybe it's an American thing. I know a lot of American actors kind of have that. Well, Christian Bale did this, or Meryl Streep did this at this age, and they kind of set these arbitrary goalposts that kind of inhibit an actor from working.
I just think, if I thought that, to me feels really luxurious.
Yeah.
I think,
and it is. I mean, you're 100% right.
It's, if you've got 10 scripts landing on your desk, then great. But the reality is, that it's such a saturated career, that there's job, there's so many of us, and so few roles, especially for women. There are still fewer parts for women and more of us. So it's the idea that you know, actors kind of going, oh, how did you kind of like hone what you wanted to do? You kind of think, well, I just feel like that's a little quite a romantic way of looking at it. I'm sure it does become more like that. I'm just saying initially when I was younger, it wasn't like that at all. And also I remember actually the first time I ever came to LA, having general meetings with people and people saying, whose career do you want? Yeah. I remember finding that such a strange question. I was like, well, my own.
Yeah, I want mine, not anyone else's, you know.
I didn't know. I didn't when I first came to LA, I didn't have an agent. I was kind of very much just came here, went there and just started trying to make it happen. So a lot of the kind of questions were totally new, and I didn't really understand what they were getting at. And then when I would mention it to other friends who were a little bit older than me who also acted, they'd be like, oh, they were like, oh, we should say this kind of thing, and you should, you know, pitch yourself here and choose someone who looks like you and all this. And think, oh no, okay, I don't want to do that, because also you don't know the private conversations that Kristen Bell and Meryl Streep have had. You don't know what's really gone on. And it's like when people kind of do say someone's kind of an overnight success, you think, well, actually she's been slogging her guts out for about 15 years, but this just happens to be the one that people like. So she's not an overnight success. She's been working really hard for ages.
Yeah, no, that is incredible. And I really appreciate your candor there. And I do briefly want to talk about the university years, because once you made that decision to focus on doing that, I love that. I respect that. I did the same thing, although I did study acting, but I dropped out. So that was kind of my experience of getting away from acting. I'm curious for you, while you made the decision to go, were you strategically turning down work to focus on the time there, or would you work during the breaks?
No, I had to work because I didn't have any money.
Yeah, it's so expensive. Yeah.
It's nothing like America, but it's still like I don't come. I'm quite well spoken. I have quite a ridiculously posh name, but I'm not from money. And so the idea of I had to work. I had to pay my rent. I had to pay for my fees and cost of living. So I didn't have a choice. But it would be, you know, trying to fit things into the half terms. And I do remember once in my second year, I was doing a show in London, and I was coming back and forth at crazy hours. Like I'd be kind of finishing at 1 a.m. and coming back to uni, sleeping for a couple of hours and being back at lectures at 7. And it was just, and I did that for about 6 or 7 months. That was intense.
Stamina wise, how do you monitor that? How do you do that? You know, I mean, that's
young. You're I can do it now.
Yeah.
But you're young, and you want to make it happen. But I did say no to anything in the third year, because I thought, right, I wanted to get a particular grade, and I knew I was capable of it if I applied myself. So I kind of saved up enough and kind of lived like a monk, eating kind of pea sandwiches. Oh my God, I remember that was all I had, because I was so strict with my budget. I had frozen peas and bread, so I just had pea sandwiches. You mean
literal peas? Wow.
Peas, because it was so skin. And I thought, I can't afford to work. I can't work.
It's so Oliver Twist. Wow.
Oh gosh. But you know, it was worth it, and it certainly teaches you the value of money.
So I'm curious then, because I actually have a lot of British actors that do the show, and I have so much love for, you know, the UK and the culture there. For you, you know, at this time when you were, you know, 18, 19, whenever you graduate uni, was there a critical, you know, do I go to America or do I stay here? Like road diversion where you had to choose which way to go?
I think I was quite keen to go to LA, actually. I'd never been. And I had actually done a film in my second year with Jamie Dornan, and his first movie, and he was always going back and forth to LA, and I thought, oh gosh, that's so glamorous.
Yeah.
And when I graduated, I thought, right, well, I should go to LA and get an agent. And I did, but I needed to earn some money first. So I did some jobs in the UK, and then a friend, actually, someone who I'd worked with, was moving to LA, and he had a spare room. So I just kind of went and moved in with him and did it that way. Yeah, there was quite a kind of definite idea that I wanted to see what it was like. And you know, it's so it's kind of the stuff of fantasy, Hollywood,
Yeah.
LA. So I wanted to go there and see it from my own eyes, and it was a good. First time I went there for about 9 months, and it was a good recce.
That's amazing. And was that your first experience in America?
No, no, I'd been to New York before, which I loved.
Yeah, New York,
But
that's where I live. It's incredible. But LA is
yeah,
such a different beast. So talk to me about,
yeah,
it sounds like you had a comrade that you lived with. That's incredible. That really helps
yes.
with the social, but the business is so brutal out there. How was that on you? Because it's just, I can't even deal with LA. It's just so much.
It was a bit crazy. But there were just things that people would say that was so harsh.
Yeah.
But
I'm
I
sorry. It's
did
awful.
no, but
Yeah.
I did kind of find it funny. I remember people saying, what did they say? People used to be really, people just say funny things. They just like, oh my God, you're so weird looking. Oh my God, you're so weird. You'll never be a lead actress. You're so weird. And I'm
What?
like, and I just remember saying, I look forward to proving you wrong.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh my God, I love that. I love that you just said that. And you'd be like, okay, good, great, nice to meet you. And thinking, what just happened? That was
Oh
so
my
weird.
God.
But finding it funny, finding it, I'd recount these stories and people, oh my God, that's so awful. I'm like, no, but that is kind of preposterous that just happened. Like that you're being viewed in this way that's not even, you're just sort of a headshot, and you're just like a moving headshot. And I remember finding it genuinely educational and
Yeah.
realizing, no, I think, look, that's true. I think it can be really harsh,
Yeah.
but I feel like you can decide how you will take it. And I think you can just decide, I think that's quite preposterous that they've just said this rude thing to me. I'm either going to let it upset me or use it to fuel my fire. You can decide how to take something. I do. And so LA actually really taught me to kind of go, well then great. If that's your opinion, that's your opinion, but I don't agree with you. Not in
That
an
is
arrogant
amazing.
way,
No,
but just
that's,
in a way of going, you don't have to let this upset you. You don't.
yeah.
You can decide to not allow it to upset you.
What's the saying? You have to feel embarrassed to get embarrassed. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's amazing. I appreciate
I'm
that.
not saying it
That's,
was always easy. I'm not,
yeah,
it's
no,
not,
I
I mean,
know it. Believe me.
it's, I've
I
still
get
not
comments all
mastered
the
this.
time on the
Yeah.
podcast.
You just,
Yeah.
like, I think it was just an interesting, I remember when I first came out, and then as I said, I was there for quite a long time, and I came back and I met my friends in the pub, and they're actually two of my bridesmaids, they're still my best friends, and I went to get us a round of drinks, and I came back and their heads were kind of, like together. And then they kind of looked up as I came back to the table. And I said, what are you talking about me? And they just said, we just thought that you would come back and be really different. You hear all of these stories, and we just thought that it would have kind of, I don't know, really changed you. But it just didn't in that way. I just kind of thought, I don't know how to, I'm being quite inarticulate, but I just remember thinking, I think it can kind of eat you up, and it actually doesn't need to be. People can be incredibly friendly. I mean, I also learned really good things in LA, that everyone compliments each other, and people kind of say they do say, like, people in the streets say nice things to each other all the time. And I remember gaining confidence in that way, and kind of just being quite kind to people. Actually, it's not a terrible place.
No, that's amazing. And I really appreciate your viewpoint on it, because that's a first for this podcast, because LA, it can be brutal, but no, it's great. I really want actors to hear that, because you're 100% right. And you said earlier you did 9 months there. Was there a decision at a certain point to go to New York or to go back home? Like, obviously you worked, because like I know you did Thor and Guardians of the Galaxy in elementary. At what point did you start moving around again?
I mean, this was way before that. I did No Strings Attached, which
Yeah, of course.
where I first met Jake Johnson. That was, gosh, when was that? 2009 or 2010?
Yeah.
Something like that. So I think I did No Strings Attached, and then I came back, and then I got a job in New York. Then I got Mr. Popper's Penguins in New York, so that was why I
Oh, right,
left.
with
And then
Jim
I just,
Carrey. Yeah.
yes, so I didn't really. I can't. Gosh, that's terrible. I can't completely remember what the impetus was to come back, but once I was back, I thought, I don't think I want to live there. I really liked working there
Yeah.
in LA, I mean, but I remember thinking, I don't think I want to live there. Lots of my friends moved out there. Lots of my British actor friends moved out there. And I just didn't fancy living there permanently. You do end up going there a lot for work. So I thought, well, that you have the best of both. You can kind of live in London near your friends and family and go off to LA or New York for work.
Yeah.
It's kind of that's if you're lucky, then it works out that way.
That's amazing. And obviously being British, there's the West End and there's so much incredible Shakespeare at the Globe, not, throughout the whole entire country. And I'm curious for you, having those credits as a child and then building those in LA when you came back, was there, I know the money is not the same, but did you want to do theater? Like, was that ever, was that something that interested you?
Yes, very much so. It was something that I was so keen to do. I mean, you have to remember that growing up in London, you're London born and bred, theatre, there's always lots of offers on so that there are affordable tickets for different price points. And even when I was walking around London going to auditions, there's so much theatre everywhere. It's just so rich with it that that was a real dream. But because I hadn't trained at drama school, it's just not typically.
Yeah, they can be so harsh, right? Like LA, sort of.
Yeah. I mean, this is sort of a sweeping generalization, but there is a kind of, you're not road tested. You've not been proven.
You're not a Lambda Rada graduate.
Yeah. And it can be tricky to get auditions. And I actually remember saying, I think I was kind of quite what's the word, I don't know, I was bemoaning it to a journalist, or they were doing a story about something else, and I was kind of saying, like, I can't get an audition for a theatre because I didn't go to drama school. It was what it felt like. And then a casting director who was casting a play at the Crucible Theatre in Sheffield with Daniel Evans directing, saw this piece and just said, oh, let's audition her. And it was just because I said this kind of offhand remark that I then finally got an audition. But I thought, oh right, well, I quite like that it came about.
Yeah, you manifested it.
Moaning about it. I manifested it by moaning. Yeah. And then once and it went very well, and people liked it very much. So it kind of that then.
What was the piece, if you don't mind me asking? It
was called The Effect. It was by Lucy Prebble.
Okay.
I think it was first at the National, but we did it in Sheffield. Daniel Evans directing it, and it's about these people that go into a kind of medical center to test a drug that is being developed to treat people with depression by releasing dopamine, which is the same chemical that's released when you fall in love.
Yeah.
And these two characters, one's on a placebo and one isn't, and then they start to fall in love, and they have to interrogate whether it's real love or whether it's chemically induced.
Well, now I have to read this. Can I see it anywhere? Was it recorded?
Oh no, I think Billy Piper did it originally at the National. They might have a recording of that one, but you should read it. It's
I gotta read
incredible.
That's so relevant today.
It's fantastic. She writes for Succession now. She's very
of course. Fantastic. That makes total sense. Jeremy Strong. Yeah. Love that. How was that experience for you? Having all these incredible set experiences and returning to, back to the 1,500 people play, back to doing, where it all started. Was there also, I just know, I mean, it's the same for American actors with Broadway. It's just like it's a thing that you're proud of, I mean, British theater is the most, I mean, that's where there in Greece is where it all started,
Yeah. It felt amazing. Really, I was so excited. I remember, I hadn't done a professional play since I was a kid, maybe 12 or something. So I was just so excited, and I just couldn't wait to kind of get in there and do it. And it's just, it does exercise completely different muscles. It is, you get immediate feedback from the audience. You kind of work off that response to kind of temper what you're doing. and then the kind of the adrenaline is unmatched by anything else, you know, because you've got these actors, and if something goes wrong, it's how you fix it. And it's, you know, that thing that people always used to say, oh, it's different every night. I thought, how could it possibly be different every night? I don't believe you. That's surely you're exaggerating. And sure enough, it is different every single night.
Totally.
So that's, you know, I think no matter how much kind of screen work you do, if you enjoy stage work, then that pull will always be there, because it does satisfy a very different kind of aspect of acting.
It's live.
It's quite addictive. It's live.
Yeah, the feedback is immediate. You don't have to wait a year to be like, how did that scene turn out?
Yeah.
But that's amazing, and I'm so proud of you. That's incredible, and I'm glad to do that. And I really hope I get a chance to see you on the stage one day, whether in America or in the UK.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. Broadway.
You and I will do one together.
That'll be fun.
I'll put it out now. They're putting the energy. I'm manifesting it. I'm moaning.
It works.
Yeah, it does. I love that. At what point, you know, because I just did a procedural, I did Law and Order. At what point did Elementary come your way? Because I know the BBC, there are quite a number of procedurals in the UK as well. You know, were you familiar with that kind of terrain?
Yes, I mean, I was, but I hadn't. Well, it was my first. Elementary was my first American one, but I did done kind of shows like that when I was younger. The difference though was that it was such a well-oiled machine. I remember that being so struck by that when we were working, because I did half a season, so that was 5 months in New York, and they were long but very productive hours. And Lucy Liu and Johnny Lee Miller were just so professional, and I learned a lot on that set, just how slick and like everyone was so on top of their lines, and it was you know, you didn't want to be the weak link in that. And you know, the writing is quick, you know, the scripts come thick and fast, you've got to learn it, and you've got to really be on top of your character, and you don't know what's going to happen. And that was new, actually, because in the UK typically you get all of the scripts at once,
or at least the arc of where it's going, you know. So
that was my first experience of just not knowing. Well, I was like, how do I pitch my character? How do I know what to do with her? And you kind of, I remember Johnny actually saying, well, just look at it in a different way, that you don't know what's going to happen next in your life. So actually working this way is helpful, because this new thing happens. So you're kind of evolving as it happens. And I actually ended up really enjoying working that way, because you could add little facets that maybe weren't there before. The character evolves, and then the writers kind of respond to what you're doing, and then incorporate that into the character, which is really satisfying.
That's amazing. And that's incredible you were to have that experience. You know, they can be so expositional at times, and it's really hard to live in the truth of that. But that's amazing you were able to find that. So when you did that and you moved to New York, you know, obviously there are lots of other incredible credits that I would love to talk to you about someday. But to get to what we're here to talk about, and what I really want to talk to you about, is Minx. You know, you said earlier you had met Jake. Were you guys friends before this came your way?
No, we hadn't seen each other since we did No Strings Attached, and we didn't really have much to do with each other. We had one tiny scene where we overlapped, and then hadn't seen each other since then. So the first time we saw each other again was at the rehearsals. But when they told me that Jake was doing it, I was just thought, that's the most perfect casting. He's perfect to play Doug. And as soon as we started rehearsing with each other, just the kind of the bouncing off each other, the energy was there, the rapport. I was already really excited about the show, but then seeing what Jake was doing with the character, it just elevated it even more. And it made me even more excited to get onto a set with him. And
the chemistry between you just want to hang out with you guys. You want to be best friends. It's such an incredible time.
Over him.
I mean, not since like, you know, Lucille Ball and, you know, have you seen such an amazing, you know, you're not even really a couple. So it's just incredible that you had that chemistry, because it just felt like you guys were best friends forever. And I'm curious, how did the piece come your way originally?
It was just, it was sent through. I was in LA promoting a film that I'd done, a Disney film, and I stayed for a few weeks afterwards, and the script got sent through. I think it was in pilot season, and I could barely contain my excitement. I was kind of reading it as quickly as possible, just thought, oh gosh, just, you talk about this and you forget the actual feeling. When you read a script, you just think you get so excited. And
You pray
every
for
time you read
writing
a
like
script,
that your whole life.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then, because again, this is another thing with Ellen. I mean, again, I don't know if you ever really mastered this, but to try and treat auditions as just an opportunity to do a bit of acting,
Yeah.
to try and not overthink it, to try and not think, oh, but I hope they like me. Oh, but I hope I get it. Oh, I hope I get a recall. Just go in and all do what you are good at and control the controllables. You know how to act, you know how to do this. Go in, have some fun, and then just try to just leave it in the room. And sometimes you're better at doing this than others. But Minx was one of those who just thought, even if I don't get this part, I love this character and I'm just going to go in there and have a ball and do with her what I think should be done with her.
Because you're excited to do it. It's not
exactly.
it's not like shitty writing. Exactly. Like, how do I make this good? You know what I mean? Like, you want to bring the truth to it.
And like that, the fact that it then did turn out, favorably for me was just obviously a massive cherry on the cake. But it was genuinely fun just to get to even just doing it for that half-hour audition or whatever. And then I did the audition. I was actually supposed to go home, and then they called and said they want to see you again, so you're going to have to change your flight. And I said, that's fine, there's no problem. And then went in for the recall, and it went really well. And Ellen was there, Ellen Rappaport, the creator, and she was just brilliantly funny, so sardonic. I just thought, oh my God, this woman is amazing. Yeah. And then COVID happened. So everything shut down.
Before you even started rolling on a camera.
So yeah. So wow. I auditioned for it in February, and then I had the recall in March, and then everything shut down. And I didn't hear until, I want to say, October that I had the part.
Oh my God, you had to wait that long?
That
is torture.
Oh
Who does that? Yo, what the fuck, man? That's insane.
I like to call it delayed gratification.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I can't even, I'd be dying. Especially when you're stuck in your room all the time.
I mean, I know, I was just like, there's only so much gardening I can do to distract myself. But but when the call finally came through, it just felt amazing. It was, that was a good phone call.
This is the best performance, not by a female, but by anyone I've seen in such a long time.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, I mean,
blush.
I mean that, because like when great writing meets a great actress and a great showrunner, like it just elevates to a thing that it's so rare in this business, particularly now with like, there's 10 new TV shows every hour. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, calm down. Give me a second to catch up. And when watching you in this, it was just like, I couldn't stop. I enjoyed every moment. And it's also just like, I can only imagine what it's like as a female, and let alone a female actress, dealing with feminist issues in a show that it like subverts it with, the pornography angle and combines that all into one to just be this incredible voice of this great writing and to bring truth to it and make your own stamp on it. It's like, it's incredible. I hope you realize how, I would give you every award if I could, I really would. Like, you're so good in this. And my God, I demand more. I'm calling the HBO brass,
great. You and me both.
I'm like, there has to be more. There has to be, and
I hope so. I feel like there's
I don't mean it. I'm not trying to reveal your own ego, but did you feel it while you were doing it? Did you know that it was this incredible? I mean, you said the audition, but
I feel
did
like,
you know
what, that it was a good show?
That it was a great show.
It felt, all of us, whenever we'd be doing a scene together, we'd kind of be looking at each other. It felt so good doing it. And it felt, because obviously it was off the back of, the pandemic, everyone was just so grateful to be there. And everyone was just putting their all into this. And it was so much fun being on that set that I just thought, surely we've got to do more of this. This is too good to not do this again. But you just, as you said, it's quite, it's quite a nuance, quite a niche kind of idea. We just thought, right, we hope that this is going to land with people in the way that we want it to. But the fact that it is marrying feminism, but in a way that's funny, that's not too kind of like dour. And is this going to land with people? Are people going to find it funny, but also hear the feminist message?
The counterintuitive, it makes you think about it more. You actually explore it versus if it were like a heavy-handed, dogmatic tone,
Exactly. Well, initially, I think initially it was pitched as a 1 hour drama, I think.
Wow.
back in a few years ago, and then Ellen sort of it evolved into a half-hour comedy, but it is more effective this way. So yeah, it felt good doing it. Felt really good. When you'd be playing around all these great guest stars that we'd have and these incredible storylines for the different characters, no one was kind of neglected. You thought, oh, surely people will like this. Surely people will kind of find a place in their hearts for this show. But yeah, I feel like there is scope to do more. So I hope
it's going to happen. I'm bemoaning right now, and it's so great, and how does it feel now? We were just talking earlier about theater, you get live feedback with this, you got to wait a year. So how has it been now living in the glory of it finally finishing its hair and living with people?
Gosh, it's there's I want to answer this honestly, but without sounding like a complete goofball. But it's just been so lovely. You like it. The people you've been working with, like it. But then to see people kind of posting pictures of the billboards and kind of making gifs. Oh my god, all of the fellow cast members all been texting each other gifs, going, oh my god, look, we're a gift. It's just like we've been so uncool about it, and just people's genuine responses to it have been so lovely. We're getting so many messages from people just on Instagram picking out their favorite lines, or the fact that they even have favorite lines. You think, oh my god, it sounds so cheesy. It really does. I'm so aware that I sound like such a cheeseball, but going back to that 10-year-old living on a housing estate, we were so skin, and just thinking, if I could kind of say to her, you're going to be doing a show in LA, like you keep going, like don't give up, it's fine, just keep going. It's really lovely to see that. I mean, that sounds so cheesy, but
no. Or to those shitty actors in LA that are like, you'll never be a lead. You know what I mean? You just fuck you, I did it.
I hadn't thought about that, but actually,
well, I said it, not you. That's amazing, and I really, I love the ride, and I'm more is coming, and I got to get you on to the next one. So a few fun questions here.
Okay.
We kind of already said hopefully the next one, but what else is in store for you?
Well, the next thing that's coming out actually is a show about Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, and his handling or mishandling, however you want to call it, of the pandemic. So that's the next thing that's coming out, which couldn't be more different from Minx in every way. So again, that's going to be very curious to see how people respond to that one. But other than that, it's just, I think it's going to be hard choosing something that is going to get you as excited. You want to try and find, I mean, I'd love, a theatre would be amazing, but I'm always I don't kind of choose, right, next it's got to be a play, or next it's got to be a dramatic film or anything. I just, it's responding to the material. And sometimes you might get several things sent through and just think, I'm just not connecting with this. And I really feel like I ought to connect with it. So I'm gonna say no, which is so scary when it's in lieu of of nothing else. But I do think, like we were saying earlier about being selective, I think that comes with age, maybe just sort of trusting yourself a bit and knowing what you like, and knowing, I think you've played this part before, maybe you don't need to revisit this, it's just, so I don't know. There's lots of things lots of things in the ether, but
TBD, as they say, to be determined.
TBD.
Yeah, I love that. And I know this one is a deep question, so I apologize in advance, but to the young Ophelia and to all the young actors out there that, particularly you in the housing state, going back and to be able to give yourself advice, or to give, people listening right now advice, that there's been a pandemic, they maybe just started a job finally again, now that the world is opening back up, and, are in that acting class, and people are like, you'll never be a lead. And there is so much television, but it's so hard to get an audition. It's so hard to get rep. Any advice you would have as someone who's done this for so long now?
The only advice I would have is, this sounds really oversimplistic, but just do not give up under any circumstances. Do not give up, because the moment you give up, you're ending it. If you keep going, it will happen. My mum always said to me, the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people, however you want to define that, is that the successful ones don't give up. You just keep going. You keep on trucking. And I mean, it's just so basic. There's no magic wand. There's no, if I dye my hair, or if I kind of lose loads of weight, or if I
choose this role and do this path,
or if I choose, it's just, you could try and model yourself on one actor and think, oh, well, they did this, and like study exactly their choices over the last few years, check every single IMDb entry, read everything you can. You don't know how edited that is. You don't know what that person's allowed to be out there. You don't know the disappointments that person has had in their own life. I think it's like, you never see a sprinter checking the runners either side of them. As soon as they do that, they fall back and they lose. And I think even in that Baz Luhrmann song, Wear Sunscreen, it says, sometimes you're ahead, sometimes you're behind. The race is long. Just keep going. You will get there. Get there.
Appreciate that. Needed to hear that myself. Ophelia.
Just listen to the Baz Luhrmann song. I listen to it all the time. I'm just like, yeah, it's true.
This was incredible. You're amazing. Thank you for doing this. Sorry about the internet issues. Come back.
Okay.
Come back sometime soon, please. I'd love to.
I'd love to.
I'd love to dig deeper. I am wishing you a beautiful wedding, and this meant everything.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's so nice. It's so lovely to talk to you. Thank you.
Yeah. TBC, to be continued.
yeah. TBC. TBD and TBC.
So much love, Ophelia. Thank you.